The energy shifted the second those names started circulating together in the same sentence. Not in a playful way. Not in a rap beef way. In a way that made people inside the industry stop joking, stop tweeting, and start calling each other quietly. Because when 21 Savage and NBA YoungBoy are mentioned behind closed doors right now, the word that keeps coming up isn't music. It's dangerous. This didn't explode overnight. It crept. It simmered. It moved through private conversations, tense phone calls, and loyalty checks that forced people to choose sides whether they wanted to or not. What the public is just now catching up to, insiders say, has been building for a long time. And the moment it finally surfaced, everything felt different. Heavier. Colder. Like something that can't be taken back once it's said out loud. Screenshots started leaking. Old audio clips resurfaced. Clubhouse rooms turned into digital battlegrounds where jokes turned into confrontations and silence spoke louder than insults. Fans watched in real time as lines were drawn, friendships erased, and alliances hardened. And the most chilling part? Neither side looked interested in backing down. People close to both camps are whispering that this isn't about clout, streams, or social media theatrics. This is about loyalty, betrayal, and decisions that were made years ago finally coming due. Decisions that tied real emotions to real consequences. Because when influence meets unresolved street politics, history tells us how these stories end. And right now, everyone is asking the same question in hushed tones. Has this already gone too far? What the public saw looked sudden. A switch flipped. A friendship erased. But the truth is, this fracture had been forming long before fans ever noticed the tension. Long before the unfollows. Long before the clubhouse chaos. Long before anyone dared to say the words out loud. Insiders say the real story begins with a choice that was never meant to be public, a loyalty test that 21 Savage never asked for but couldn't escape once it landed at his feet. Behind the scenes, 21 wasn't drifting. He was being pulled. Pulled by grief, by obligation, by relationships that went deeper than music. His connection to Lil Durk wasn't just industry-friendly. It was personal. Business. Family-level trust. So when tragedy struck and lines hardened, neutrality stopped being an option. According to people close to 21, he wrestled with it quietly at first. Late-night conversations. Long pauses. The kind of silence that means someone already knows there's no perfect answer. That's where the quote everyone keeps resurfacing comes in. If I mess with both of y'all, but I mess with him a little harder, that wasn't internet talk. That was philosophy. That was 21 explaining how loyalty works in his world. You don't play the middle. You don't smile in two directions. You choose, even when choosing costs you something you never wanted to lose. And the cost was NBA YoungBoy. The severance wasn't slow. It wasn't awkward distance. It was immediate and total. Calls stopped. Messages unanswered. Neutrals quietly stepped back. For fans, it felt abrupt. For YB, it felt like betrayal carved in stone. Because this wasn't just a rap friendship. This was brotherhood. So real that YB had permanently marked himself with 21 symbol. A tattoo meant to say this bond doesn't break. Now that symbol felt like a wound. Sources close to YB say the moment he realized 21 wasn't staying neutral hit him harder than any diss track ever could. This wasn't a stranger choosing sides. This was someone he trusted enough to wear on his body, choosing the other camp publicly and unapologetically. And in YB's world, that kind of decision doesn't just sting. It demands a response. At first, the response was quiet. Subtle. Subliminal. Energy shifts in music. Lines that sounded general until you knew where to look. Fans debated whether it was intentional or coincidence. But insiders say it was deliberate restraint. A pause before escalation. Because YB wasn't just reacting emotionally. He was watching who else would follow 21's lead. And they did. As 21 himself later admitted, a lot of people weren't going to mess with YB because they messed with Dirk. That wasn't gossip. That was reality. Doors closing. Collaborations evaporating. Invitations drying up. YB felt the industry shift around him, not because of his music, but because loyalty had become contagious. And nothing fuels resentment faster than watching your circle shrink while your rivals grows. The boiling point came in a place nobody expected to matter this much. Clubhouse. A room meant for conversation, not confrontation. According to multiple witnesses, YB entered knowing 21 was already there. No intermediaries. No filters. No time to cool down. What followed wasn't just trolling. It was direct. Personal. Raw. A confrontation in real time with thousands listening, recording, and reposting within seconds. People who were in that room still talk about the tension. The way jokes turned sharp. The way silence hit harder than words. This was the first time they'd interacted since the fallout, and any illusion of reconciliation died right there. Clips spread instantly, stripped of context and amplified with speculation. Fans chose sides overnight. And both camps realized something irreversible had happened. What most people don't know is that behind the scenes, 21 was still trying to stop things from getting worse. He wasn't flexing. He wasn't enjoying the chaos. He was calling. Talking. Reaching out where he could. With Dirk locked up, 21 spoke to Dirk's people. He spoke to F members. He spoke directly to YB. His message was consistent: squash it. Not for optics. Not for streams. For safety. His warning was blunt. This isn't just rap. This leads to real consequences. People getting hurt. People going to jail. Lives ruined permanently. It wasn't a lecture. It was a concern. And for a moment, insiders say it looked like YB might listen. Then everything flipped. During his tour, YB brought Lil Tim out on stage to perform I Hate YoungBoy, the same song tied directly to unresolved trauma and loss. To many watching, it wasn't just disrespect. It was a provocation. A statement that peace wasn't on the table. And once that happened, the temperature of the entire situation changed. For 21, that moment confirmed what he had feared all along. This wasn't cooling down. It was escalating. His prediction, once dismissed as caution, suddenly felt prophetic. Because fast forward and the fallout he warned about is no longer hypothetical. Federal cases. Careers derailed. Lives lost. Names forever attached to tragedy. And now, with history already stained, every move feels heavier. Every lyric is dissected. Every appearance scrutinized. People close to both sides are nervous, not because of what's been said publicly, but because of what's being whispered privately. Messages that don't leak. Calls that don't get recorded. Warnings passed quietly between people who've seen how these stories end before. What started as loyalty has turned into something far more dangerous. Because when loyalty becomes a line in the sand, stepping over it feels like betrayal. And betrayal, in this world, never stays symbolic for long. The scariest part isn't that this beef exists. It's that everyone involved knows exactly how this story has ended before, and nobody's sure how to stop it this time. After that night, nothing felt theoretical anymore. The energy around this situation hardened into something people could feel in their chest. Conversation stopped being casual. Jokes disappeared. Even insiders who normally thrive on chaos started choosing their words carefully. Because once the tour moment happened, once that stage appearance sent its message loud and clear, everyone understood the same thing at the same time: this wasn't cooling down. It was calcifying. Behind the scenes, the phones never stopped ringing. Not from fans. From people with something to lose. Managers calling managers. OGs calling younger artists. Quiet messages sent with no emojis, no extra words, just concern wrapped in urgency. A few trusted intermediaries believed they could still slow things down, maybe redirect the narrative before it went somewhere irreversible. That window slammed shut the moment private messages began leaking. The first screenshots appeared in anonymous forums late at night. Nothing explosive at first. Just short exchanges. Subtle language. Phrases like "you already chose" and "don't play dumb now." Fans argued about authenticity, but people close to the situation recognized the tone immediately. These weren't fans role-playing. This was real tension spilling out sideways. The kind that doesn't belong online but ends up there because no one involved trusts silence anymore. Then came the audio rumors. No full recordings surfaced, but multiple accounts with industry credibility hinted that voice notes existed. Heated calls. Arguments that never made it public. One insider claimed there was a recording of 21 trying, one last time, to de-escalate things directly with YB. Not threatening. Not lecturing. Just exhausted. Allegedly saying some version of, "this isn't worth where it's going." That alone shifted perception. Because it painted 21 not as an instigator, but as someone watching a slow-motion crash he couldn't stop. YB's camp responded the only way they knew how: pressure. Subliminals sharpened. Lyrics felt less metaphorical, more pointed. Fans caught references that felt intentional, almost daring people to react. Comment sections became war zones. Every post from either artist triggered waves of interpretation. A photo meant nothing one day, everything the next. Even silence was treated like a statement. What made it worse was the domino effect. Artists adjacent to both sides started getting pulled in. Not publicly, but privately. Loyalty checks disguised as invitations. Features quietly cancelled. Verses sent, then never cleared. People realized neutrality wasn't just frowned upon, it was risky. And in hip-hop, when people feel forced to choose, resentment doesn't stay quiet. One of the most disturbing twists came when an insider revealed that 21's earlier warnings were now being quoted back to him by people in the industry. The same lines he used to urge peace were now being repeated as prophecy. "You said this would happen." That weight hit hard. Because no one wants to be right about something like this. Meanwhile, the fan bases took on lives of their own. Twitter spaces ran for hours, voices raised, theories escalating. TikTok creators reenacted alleged confrontations with unsettling enthusiasm. Old interviews were reframed as foreshadowing. Every lyric from both artists' catalogs was reanalyzed like evidence in a case file. The narrative stopped belonging to the artists alone. It became communal, chaotic, and impossible to control. Then a new betrayal surfaced. A producer who had worked with both sides allegedly leaked that he'd been pressured to pick a direction creatively. That single phrase ignited a firestorm. Screenshots of his comments spread, then vanished. But the idea stuck. Even the music itself was being politicized. Beats weren't neutral. Studios weren't neutral. Everything became territory. At this point, even people close to YB began expressing concern quietly. Not disloyalty. Fear. Fear that escalation had become reflexive. Fear that no one was really steering the ship anymore. Fear that momentum was doing the driving. And momentum, once it takes over, doesn't listen to reason. Another critical moment happened off-camera, away from social media entirely. According to insiders, a private attempt at mediation collapsed when one side insisted on public acknowledgement of disrespect, while the other refused to perform reconciliation for an audience. That detail mattered. Because it confirmed what many suspected, this wasn't just about resolving a conflict. It was about narrative dominance. Shortly after that, a respected industry veteran posted a cryptic message that sent chills through everyone watching closely. When ego replaces intention, history repeats. No names. No explanation. But everyone knew exactly who it was about. And exactly what history he was referencing. From that point on, the tone changed again. Heavier. Darker. People stopped asking how this started and started asking how this ends. Because the track record in situations like this is brutal, and the list of cautionary tales is long. Too long. What makes this especially volatile is influence. These aren't underground figures arguing in isolation. These are artists with massive followings, real-world reach, and audiences that mirror their emotions. When they move, thousands move with them. When they speak, people listen. And when they refuse to back down, the ripple effects don't stay confined to music. Even 21's explanation of loyalty began circulating in a new light. What once sounded principled now sounded tragic. Not because it was wrong, but because of where it led. Loyalty without flexibility becomes a trap. A line you can't step away from without losing yourself. And for YB, watching that loyalty shift felt like abandonment layered on top of isolation. By now, reconciliation felt unrealistic. Not impossible, but unlikely. Too many words spoken. Too many symbols weaponized. Too many people invested in the outcome. The machine had grown larger than the individuals inside it. And just when everyone thought the situation had plateaued, one last development pushed it into truly dangerous territory. A credible source claimed that authorities were now paying attention to the cultural fallout of this feud. Not to lyrics. To patterns. Associations. Escalation markers. That alone changed the stakes. Because once outside eyes start watching, mistakes stop being theoretical. They become permanent. As this reality settled in, one chilling truth became unavoidable: the damage 21 tried to prevent was no longer in the future. It was already unfolding. And the question everyone is asking now isn't who's right or who started it. It's who's going to make the first move that can't be undone. By the time the outside pressure became visible, the situation had already crossed into a zone nobody wanted to name out loud. The whispers weren't coming from fans anymore. They were coming from people who've watched this exact pattern unfold before and know how it ends when nobody steps back in time. Conversation shifted from who said what to who needs to chill right now. And that alone told you everything. Behind the scenes, insiders say both camps started moving differently. Schedules changed without explanation. Appearances were quietly rerouted. Security teams expanded. Not flashy. Not obvious. Just enough to signal concern. People noticed artists around them being told to stay neutral publicly while privately being warned to stay out of the way. That's when the word everyone was avoiding finally started circulating in closed rooms: escalation. The tension wasn't loud. That's what made it terrifying. No dramatic social media meltdowns. No obvious diss tracks. Just a tightening. A sense that everyone was waiting for something to happen, but no one knew exactly what form it would take. And history has taught the culture one brutal lesson: when things go quiet at this stage, it's rarely because peace has been reached. What haunted 21 the most, according to people close to him, was the realization that everything he warned about was now becoming reality in slow motion. The jail conversations. The funerals. The careers frozen mid-stride. He had spoken those words trying to stop the cycle, and now those same words were being repeated back to him like a curse. Loyalty had forced his hand, and that choice had consequences that stretched far beyond personal relationships. For YB, the isolation reportedly hit harder than anyone expected. Not musically. Personally. When the industry shifted, when people stopped calling, when the same symbol of brotherhood on his neck started feeling like a reminder instead of a badge, the resentment deepened. And resentment, left unchecked, doesn't fade. It hardens. It looks for somewhere to go. At the same time, fans unknowingly poured gasoline on everything. Every post dissected. Every lyric decoded. Every rumor amplified. What felt like online chaos had real-world consequences. People aligned themselves emotionally, repeating narratives without realizing how quickly those narratives bleed into real decisions. The culture became a mirror, reflecting anger back at itself. Then came the development that made even seasoned insiders uneasy. A source with direct knowledge of industry dynamics claimed that the situation had now reached a point where even an accidental encounter could spiral. Not because anyone planned it, but because emotions were too charged and pride was too involved. That's when people started saying the quiet part out loud. This is how things get out of control without anyone intending them to. What's especially tragic is that everyone involved understands the stakes. This isn't ignorance. It's gravity. The weight of history. The knowledge that beefs like this don't end with apologies once they've reached this stage. They end when something forces them to stop. And too often, that something comes at a cost nobody wants to pay. Privately, there are rumors that multiple figures are still trying to intervene. OGs. Executives. People with enough respect on both sides to be heard. But the challenge is timing. Because when pride, grief, and loyalty collide, logic doesn't always get a seat at the table. And every day that passes without resolution makes intervention harder, not easier. The most chilling part is that both artists have already said everything that needed to be said. Not in press releases. In action. In choices. In who they stood beside and who they walked away from. There's no mystery left about where they stand. Only uncertainty about what comes next. This is no longer a story about a friendship falling apart. It's about how quickly lines become walls and how difficult it is to dismantle them once they are built. It's about influence without breaks. Loyalty without an exit. And a culture that keeps watching even when it knows the ending might be ugly. Right now, the industry is holding its breath. Fans are refreshing feeds. Insiders are making calls they hoped they'd never have to make. Because everyone understands the same terrifying truth, this beef isn't about to get deadly because someone wants it to be. It's about to get deadly because nobody knows how to stop it once it's reached this point. And until someone breaks the cycle, all anyone can do is watch. If you're still here right now, it's because you feel how heavy this has become. This isn't just another rap headline you scroll past and forget. This is one of those moments where hip-hop history is being written in real time, and once it moves forward, there's no rewind button. Every silence, every lyric, every move from here on out matters. This is exactly when people disappear from the conversation and later pretend they knew it was coming. Don't be that person. Hit like right now if you felt the shift when loyalty stopped being a concept and started becoming a liability. Drop a comment with your real take, not the safe one, not the popular one, because these comment sections are where the culture is actually talking right now. Do you think 21 made the only choice he could? Do you think YB was pushed into a corner? Or do you believe this was doomed the moment neutrality died? Subscribe and turn on notifications because when this situation moves again, it won't be subtle. It won't come with context. It will explode across the internet all at once, and the people who are locked in early will understand what's happening while everyone else is scrambling to catch up. This isn't about picking sides for fun. It's about understanding how fast things can spiral when pride, loyalty, and influence collide. The next update won't just be another clip, it could be a turning point. Stay locked in. Stay aware. Because this story isn't cooling down, it's reaching the moment that defines everything that comes after.